Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in the year 2247 with the city of Los Angeles now simply going by Angel City. Last year Detective Jack Deth defeated a psychic named Whistler who would hypnotize people into sleeper agents called Trancers. One of them killed Jack's wife, so now he hunts down the remaining few. The only problem's that they appear to be normal people at first. Fortunately there's only 2 people in this diner, so after showing the first his warrant, Detective Deth scans him with a bracelet. Determining his innocence, the Trancer is really the cleaver-wielding waitress who turns into a zombie-like state complete with biting. In the struggle, Jack drops his gun in the soup and must start serving up knuckle sandwiches, but gets doused in the delicious appetizer. Needing his boiling hot weapon to cool down, he takes a knife to his leg before Jack's able to pick up his soggy space gun and blow away Fleur. They call it singeing because a Trancer's corpse disappears in a flash of light, leaving behind a singed shadow of the body. Now Jack must listen to his superior McNulty tell him how this isn't part of his job, so Deth just quits as the pay sucked anyway. Sometime later he's shown scouring the sunken side of the city for artifacts, which is now called Los Angeles. McNulty shows up with a summons from the city council, which is apparently a very big deal in this world. Jack doesn't care and wants to turn this movie into Waterworld, but McNulty says that the Trancer leader's still alive. Deth's reinstated and meets the council, which is down to only 2 members as a result of messing with the grandfather paradox. The surviving chairman Spencer and Margaret explain that Whistler sent his consciousness back in time into his ancestor's body. The police chief eliminated the other chairman by killing their ancestors and wants to do the same to these 2, so Jack must save their lineages. They know all of this because Whistler left behind a recording of himself revealing his whole dastardly plan like a true villain would. Dr. Raines keeps Whistler's empty vessel safe so that he can stand trial when he returns, but that won't be happening because Jack impulsively singes it. He's given 2 doses of the injection to return him back to his body and a wristwatch that slows down time for a cinematic get-out-of-jail-free card. Chairman Spencer gives Jack a photo and work address, but all Margaret has to go on is that her relative was a baseball player from LA. Deth is injected and his mind sent into the body of his journalist ancestor Philip, along with a small cage containing the gadgets. Luckily Phil only met the woman in his apartment the night before, otherwise Leena might pick up that he's acting a bit different. Jack finds a similar coat in the closet and says that dry hair is for squids, which is a term for a weak-minded person susceptible to hypnosis. He takes Leena to work at the mall where she thinks she's got a stage 5 clinger on her hands, but Jack just needs help navigating the city. As Santa's little helper's taking Christmas photos, Jack notices that look in the big guy's eyes that he's already a Trancer, and throwing the kid doesn't help. The zombie Saint Nick and the future cop throw down while Mrs. Claus gets on the phone with North Pole security. A few bites and fishhooks later, the Trancer pins Jack to the wall with antlers and takes the arriving guard's gun, who was of no help at all. Getting free and outdrawing him, Jack kills Kris Kringle, but not before the vessel welcomes him to the 20th century in Whistler's voice. Having already destroyed these kids' Christmas, Jack then kidnaps Santa's little helper right in front of them. She doesn't need any convincing to believe the story about Trancers, as she did just see her boss turn into a raging zombie before her very eyes. Leena directs Deth to the tanning salon where Spencer's ancestor works, while Whistler arrives at the mall to cover up the scene. In a cruel twist of fate, giving Jack the photo of his ancestor condemns Spencer's whole bloodline when Whistler finds the address on the back. Meanwhile, Jack warns Spencer Sr. that somebody is going to try assassinate him, but the roundhousing squid has already been brainwashed. Whistler has turned the weak-minded man into a Trancer who tries to kill Jack by locking him inside a tanning booth instead of just shooting him in the head like he does to the vessel. Leena can smell something cooking from outside, so she follows her nose to the oven and saves Jack from becoming Sunday roast. Once the meat is rested, the 2 try to escape out the back, but Whistler confronts them in the parking lot with his officers. I hope they're all Trancers, because upon his command they all open fire on an unarmed woman, so Jack uses his watch. A single second is stretched out over 10 according to the council, but honestly this scene takes like a minute and a half. Jack puts Leena in the car before time returns to normal and escapes, leaving Whistler just standing there with his cop in his hand. Since they need somewhere to lay low from the police, the 2 crash at Leena's friend's place in Chinatown while she's away. They go to a bar where a punk band play the worst rendition of Jingle Bells to a crowd doing something hardly called dancing. Some blue-haired rooster wants to know what this 21-year-old girl's doing with this 38-year-old man who he so casually spits in the face of. That old man decks him with 1 punch and is angry that he went down so easily that he needs to take out his anger on a couple of his friends. Leena was already sleeping with Phil and likes Jack even better, so the next stage of their relationship is logically the horizontal shuffle. Before destroying the timeline, the lovebirds experience coitus interruptus as McNulty arrives in the vessel of a young girl who is his only available ancestor. He orders Jack to return to the present, but he was in the middle of something, so tosses the little nuisance out and returns to bed. Before rearranging Leena's whole ancestry, McNulty sneaks in and shoots Jack with a dart, sending his consciousness back to the future. For failing to save Spencer's bloodline, the last remaining chairman wants a replacement for Jack, who Maggie trusts more with her life. Jack convinces her to let him go back to 1985 as he's the best man for the job, but his main reason for wanting to return is now worn out. Phil regained control of his body and, instead of freaking out, laid the smackdown on Leena before getting locked out again. Just then Whistler comes on the news talking about giving all of the homeless identification cards to better protect the city. Knowing that this must mean the ancestor he's looking for is a bum, Jack and Leena hit the road after first receiving a reload on the time watch. They steal a couple of mopeds and locate the three wise hobos on Skid Row who need to be bribed with candy to talk. The ancestor of the last surviving council member is a former pro baseball player who they say squats down at the abandoned paper mill. Once they get there, Jack tells Leena to remain outside for her own safety, or rather to save him again when he gets in trouble on his own. He searches around and finds the squad empty as all of the residents have gathered in the basement for a game of baseball. Two of Whistler's men arrive, so Jack pretends to be homeless to ward them off, but one returns soon after to find him trying to escape. He has Jack throw away his gun instead of just shooting him, and gives Leena more than enough time to pick it up and put one in Squidward's back. Having singed her first Trancer and saved Jack's life for a second time, Leena would probably feel worse if the officer's body didn't disappear. In a rather lucky event, the two fall through the floor right into Bum Central, where the man they're looking for is a washed-up pitcher named Ashby. Whistler arrives with his men, who begin shooting up the whole room but somehow miss every shot, giving the three time to escape on the mopeds. They split up, but nothing much happens during the police chase except for Leena crashing through some old dude's living room. They meet back up at the apartment in Chinatown, where they force Ashby to clean himself up because he must have a family if he's to have descendants. They decide to set a trap for Whistler by telling him that Jack wants to trade the bum to be left alone with the girl. Leena gets herself captured on the building across the street by Whistler, who thinks he's got the drop on Jack and uses up all of his bullets, missing Ashby and Phil's coat. Deth appears on the roof behind him, so Whistler tries to hypnotize Leena, but she's too mentally strong and not some mindless squid. He reveals Leena is Jack's ancestor, and despite the knife to her throat, throws her off the roof of the building, which will kill them both. Fortunately, Jack has his watch and once again uses the long second delay to swing down from the roof and catch Leena before she splats. To protect them, Ashby puts his pitching to good use and throws glass bottles, knocking Whistler off the roof and into a conveniently placed fountain below. With one of the doses to send people back to the future broken, Jack's forced to decide between returning home or being stuck in the present. He uses the vial to send Whistler to the 23rd century, which saves the vessel's life, but without a body, the consciousness has nowhere to go. The future cop remains in the 80s with Leena, and in a weird twist on the grandfather paradox, Jack becomes his own great, and the movie ends.